Hidden in the heart of Basilicata in Italy, lies one of the most enchanting villages you've probably never heard of. The name of this village is Castelmezzano, and with its medieval charm, jaw-dropping mountain views, and thrilling adventures, this is more than just a picturesque town. Join us on this incredible adventure and this unforgettable journey into Italy's best-kept secrets. Let me not only show you but convince you why Castelmezzano deserves a spot on your bucket list. We started our journey along the stunning coastline of Roseto Capo Spulico, and from here, we traded the shimmering Ionian waves for the rugged, untamed beauty of Basilicata's mountain region. As the road climbed higher, the landscape transformed dramatically. Rolling olive groves gave way to towering hills and dense forests. For a while it all looked beautiful and perfect, and that was until we realized that we had made a huge mistake. Not we. Actually, my husband made a big mistake and took us along a completely wrong route. That road was narrow, in a bad shape, and deserted. And it was only wide enough to fit one car. But my husband would not admit his mistake, and instead he claimed that for the adventurous traveler, this nerve-wracking yet thrilling route feels straight out of a classic Italian movie. This narrow, winding path snakes its way up through thick forests, clinging to the mountainside with sheer cliffs plunging down on one side. At certain points, it's so narrow that two cars can barely pass each other, adding to the adrenaline of the climb. And those cliffs? Well, they'll keep your heart racing with towering drops with no guardrails in sight. But here's the thing, as treacherous as it might seem, this old road rewards the brave. Because every turn unveils breathtaking views of the valley below, framed by the emerald canopy of the forest. And here is a quote from my husband, to redeem himself. It's not the easiest route, but sometimes, the toughest journeys lead to the most incredible destinations. To be frank, there is an easier, newer road that will bring you to the village within half an hour drive, via a tunnel. Alright, for now, imagine a hidden Italian village carved into the mountains, where time seems to stand still. Welcome to Castelmezzano, one of the most breathtaking and underrated destinations in Italy. From thrilling ziplines that make you feel like you're flying through the clouds, to centuries-old legends hidden in its narrow streets, this is a place that I guarantee will leave you speechless. Here it is, so let's get ready to discover more and let us dive right in. I am standing at a panoramic viewpoint with the village in the background, and this is actually the spot where we parked our car. Visitors are not allowed to park inside the village itself, but there are ample parking space, right at the edge of the village. Therefore, we recommend that you book a hotel nearer to those parking lots, especially if you are pulling along lots of luggages. Our hotel, Dolomiti Hotel, is located just a few steps away, and I was already feeling relieved that we did not have to walk too much, especially the village is uphill from the parking lot. So welcome again to Castelmezzano, and immediately as you take the first step, you realize that it is a village that feels like a hidden jewel tucked into the heart of southern Italy. Located in the Basilicata region, about 100 kilometers inland from the Ionian coast, Castelmezzano is perched high in the Lucanian Dolomites, a mountain range known for its rugged beauty. Walk with me as we explore, and I promise you that this is a place where nature and history meet in perfect harmony, creating a setting that feels almost magical. The village itself is tiny, home to fewer than 1,000 people, but its charm is anything but small. Take a look around us, and Castelmezzano has been here since at least the 10th century, when settlers fled into the mountains to escape Saracen invasions. I won't bore you with lots of details, but over the centuries, the village became a secluded haven, its homes and streets blending seamlessly into the rocky landscape. As we showed you earlier, driving here was already an adventure in itself. And by the time you arrive, you feel like you've uncovered a secret that's been hidden for centuries. The village seems to rise organically out of the mountain itself, its terracotta rooftops glowing in the sunlight, framed by jagged rock formations that look almost otherworldly. Here, you really have the impression that it is a place where time slows down, where history is alive in every cobblestone street, and where the mountains whisper stories of the past. We have just started to explore its narrow alleys, but we are already thrilled to uncover its legends and take on one of Italy's most thrilling adventures. Like many hilltop villages in Italy, cars can only go so far. And since the main parking lot is at the base of the village, it's all about walking, so make sure that you have a good pair of shoes. As we head uphill, you immediately get a sense of why Castelmezzano is so unique. The houses almost look like they've grown out of the mountains themselves, their weathered stone facades blending perfectly with the jagged cliffs. And let me tell you, the walk to the village center is really like stepping back in time. Narrow cobblestone streets wind their way upward, framed by colorful flower pots and rustic balconies. The air here is crisp and fresh, and the silence is only broken by the occasional sound of church bells or the chatter of locals. You will spot some cars that are parked inside the village itself, but this is one of the privileges of being a resident here. Now, let's talk about how Castelmezzano came to be. This village was founded over 1,000 years ago by people seeking refuge from Saracen invasions. They fled into the mountains and built their homes in this natural fortress, using the rugged cliffs for protection. Over time, the village grew, but its remote location kept it largely untouched by modern development. And I guess that's why it feels so authentic today, and a true escape into the past. The houses, the streets, even the piazza, which we will visit in a minute, all feel like an extension of the mountain itself. And this natural setting has also shaped life in Castelmezzano. For centuries, the villagers here relied on farming, shepherding, and the land itself to survive. Even today, you'll find traditions and customs that have been passed down for generations, giving this place a timeless quality that's hard to find anywhere else. Castelmezzano sits at an elevation of 750 meters, therefore, its location offers breathtaking panoramic views of the surrounding valleys and peaks. And the village feels like a natural balcony overlooking the rugged Basilicata landscape. And if you stick around, we will bring you to ascend the rocky cliffs so that you can have amazing views of the surrounding valleys and peaks. Castelmezzano's twin village, known as Pietrapertosa, is just across the valley and is the highest village in Basilicata, at 1,088 meters, and it is also known for its similar integration into the cliffs, offering incredible views. In fact, you can spot it in the distance, and I will make sure to point it out to you later on in the video. After a short but steep climb, we've reached the main square of the village. Piazza Emilio Caizzo is the beating heart of Castelmezzano, and this charming square is where life unfolds, whether it's locals gathering for a chat or visitors like us soaking in the beauty of the village. From here, the views are simply spectacular. You're looking out over the stunning Lucanian Dolomites, the jagged mountain peaks that seem to rise out of nowhere. The way the village is built into the mountain means you get some of the best panoramic vistas in the region, and it's hard to take in all the beauty at once. To the east, you can see the steep cliffs of the surrounding mountains, which provide a natural fortress for the village. On a clear day, the landscape extends for miles, revealing the vast valleys and forests that stretch across the heart of Basilicata. But it's not just about the views of nature. Standing in Piazza Emilio Caizzo, you also get a glimpse of local life. And you'll often see people chatting in the cafes or gathering in the square. It's also a great spot to take in the beautiful church of Santa Maria Dell'Olmo, which adds a historical touch to the area. And it is a 13th century church that's as much a work of art as it is a place of worship. Let's take a closer look. Inside, you'll find a tranquil atmosphere, with beautiful frescoes and religious artifacts that give a glimpse into the history and devotion of the people who've lived here for centuries. The church is relatively small, with a single nave layout. And while it may not have extensive frescoes or grand altarpieces like larger churches, it does have a small altar dedicated to the Virgin Mary. The building's simplicity emphasizes the importance of spirituality over opulence, and much of the artwork and decorations are modest but meaningful. Leaving the church, I made my way deeper into the village, in the direction of the cliffs. And let me tell you why the cliffs. Did you know that legend has it Castelmezzano's cliffs were once the hiding place of bandits? Let's see. Well, back in the 11th century, this village was fortified by the Lombards, who used the natural protection of the cliffs to fend off invasions. But some say, these cliffs became a sanctuary for a different kind of rebel, more precisely, a band of outlaws who vanished into the mountains when pursued by local lords. Imagine this, a cold night, centuries ago, with only the stars to light the way. And a group of bandits is said to have carried treasure stolen from a passing caravan, with gold, jewels, maybe even sacred relics, and then they hid it somewhere among these cliffs. They disappeared that night, never seen again, but their legend lives on. Locals say the echoes you hear up here are the whispers of those lost souls, still guarding their hidden loot. The story lingers in the air as we move higher, turning onto a steeper path where we merged with a more rugged trail. The path grows narrower as we leave the smoother stretch of the main village behind, and then we veered left, up onto a series of steps that appeared to lead us directly into the rocks. While we do that, let me tell you a bit more about that loot. The story goes that the bandits weren't ordinary thieves. Like I mentioned, they were deserters from a Lombard garrison, soldiers who had grown tired of the endless battles and sought to carve out their own destiny in these unforgiving mountains. The caravan they looted was said to carry something extraordinary, a chest filled with gold coins, jewels, and, most intriguingly, a golden reliquary containing the bones of a saint, bound for a monastery in Matera. The bandits attacked under the cover of darkness, overwhelming the guards with the element of surprise. And when the chaos settled, they made their way up here, to Castelmezzano, hauling the spoils with them. But here's where it gets strange. According to the legend, they didn't just hide the treasure, they also performed a ritual. And some say it was to curse the gold so no one could steal it from them. Others believe they were trying to summon something to protect it, like a spirit, a demon, maybe even the saint whose bones they'd taken. Castelmezzano may be a small village, but its festivals are packed with life, tradition, and a touch of mysticism, drawing visitors from far and wide. Held in early September, the Feast of Kucha celebrates the local dish kucha, a hearty mix of wheat, chickpeas, and other legumes, often flavored with herbs. But the event isn't just about food, and it's a celebration of Castelmezzano's agricultural roots. And villagers and visitors alike gather in the main piazza to enjoy live music, folk dancing, and, of course, plenty of traditional food and wine. One thing I need to mention, and this is the Flight of the Angel. And this isn't a yearly festival, but it's one of Castelmezzano's most famous attractions, available throughout summer. And I will tell you more about it later in this video. For now, let us continue our uphill ascent towards the cliffs. And to be honest, we were just walking aimlessly around the village, looking for an access path, as there were no clear signs to indicate the way properly. We ended up near this bed and breakfast, tucked in one corner of the village. And we could see the cliffs clearly, right behind this spa and wellness center. Next to it, there was a set of steps that seemed to lead higher up, but where exactly? Let us find out together. The steps are now really steep and narrow, winding their way upward like a stone ribbon. They're carved into the natural slope of the village, blending perfectly with the surrounding architecture. As you climb, you'll pass by small homes, some with flower-filled balconies, while others looked totally abandoned. This part of the village was deserted, and we started to wonder if we should even be venturing around here. The higher you go, the more stunning the views become. And turning a corner, you'll catch glimpses of the Lucanian Dolomites towering above, their jagged peaks framed perfectly by the narrow passage. And just when we thought we reached the end of the village, there was another set of steps, leading higher up, but this time, leading us further and further away from civilization. There are several abandoned houses around the steps, and they tell a quiet, poignant story of time, change, and migration. These crumbling structures, with their weathered facades and gaping windows, whisper of a bygone era when the village was bustling with life. Many of these houses were left behind in the mid-20th century, as families moved away in search of better opportunities in cities or even abroad. The rugged mountain lifestyle, while picturesque, was harsh and unforgiving, leading to waves of migration. And what remains are reminders of simpler times, with a mix of stone and brick walls, wooden shutters hanging on by a thread, and faded plaster stained by decades of rain and sun. Each house has its own character, despite their state of decay. Some still have fragments of painted murals or hand-carved door frames, showcasing the craftsmanship of the past. And then we reached a dead end, a ravine, and it was impossible for us to pursue this route, therefore, we had to turn around, to look for another way uphill. The forest begins to encroach, its dense canopy shielding us from the sun. A sudden rustling in the trees startles us both, and I laugh nervously. Okay, maybe it's just the wind, or maybe it's those spirits I mentioned. But I was not going to wait to find out what it was, so I made a U-turn and quickly walked back towards the village. We could have ended this tour right here, and then bring you for a nice meal at one of the restaurants near the main square of the village. But, as usual, my husband had different ideas. Funny ideas, or crazy ideas. And it seems that whenever the going gets tough, he likes to poke his nose where he clearly should not. So he pulled out his Google map, and after a while, he managed to find another set of steps, but this time leading away from the village, bringing us completely outside the village itself. This path is called Via Paschiere, and along this path, the surroundings feel even more rustic and authentic. To be honest, I was not keen to walk higher up and further away from the village. But then, the views from out here, well, they were out of this world. And so I followed him on this little adventure, praying that I won't regret it. This area connects you to trails that lead toward the cliffs and more adventurous parts of the village, such as the pathways to Lucanian Dolomites or the ancient ruins nestled in the hills. But we were trying to walk to the chapel of Santa Maria, which was indicated on one of the signboards, along the way. After a few steps, the path opened up, and the more we walked, the more comfortable I felt. Once again, my husband has found us a gem, and it seems that we were the only one along this path, on that day. And now, after reading about it, I realized that Via Paschiere was the lifeblood of Castelmezzano, centuries ago. It connected villages to the cliffs above and the fertile valley below. Earlier during the video, I mentioned about the flight of the angel. It is, in fact, an adrenaline-pumping zipline experience in Basilicata, connecting the villages of Castelmezzano and Pietrapertosa, which are nestled in the rugged Lucanian Dolomites. Participants soar between the peaks at speeds of up to 120 km per hour, suspended high above the valley for breathtaking views of the rocky terrain and charming villages below. Why I mention it now again is because we are going to walk past the zipline soon. And this is part of that zipline, which actually features two routes, one from Castelmezzano to Pietrapertosa and another in reverse, both around 1,400 meters long, offering slightly different perspectives. This experience is not just a thrilling adventure but also a unique way to explore the area's stunning natural beauty. We were still walking towards the chapel, and we had no real clue how long it would take us. The signboard we saw earlier only indicated the direction, and next to the name was written 0.23, and this is a number that meant nothing to us. But we had been walking for more than half an hour now, and I was started to feel agitated. How long would we have to walk? The trail winds through rocky paths and lush landscapes, and it actually took us about 45 minutes to an hour to complete, before we could see the chapel itself. The chapel is a simple but quite charming structure nestled amidst nature, making it a peaceful retreat. But it was closed, and usually I would feel annoyed that we wasted an hour to get here. However, along the way, we got to enjoy panoramic vistas of Castelmezzano and neighboring Pietrapertosa, enhancing the hike's allure. From the chapel, there is another path leading even higher up, and my husband was already making his way towards it. But this time I was firm. I refused to follow him and I walked back towards the chapel, and he had no other choice and he gave up his idea and joined me. So we walked back towards the village, admiring the lush greenery and the animals grazing along these impossibly steep slopes. I wonder how did they even manage to make their way there. From time to time we stopped to admire the views. Pietrapertosa is the village, further away in the background, near to the other peak. We walked back to the village, and I was already looking forward to a cold drink and an amazing early dinner. But things did not look right when I noticed that we were again making our way uphill, instead of walking downhill where the main square and where our hotel were located. This path was even more steep, and in fact, this will lead us to what is known as the Norman stairway in Castelmezzano, and it is a series of 54 stone steps carved directly into the rocky spires of the Lucanian Dolomites. We will have a chance to see the Norman stairway in a while, but for now we have to climb a path of steep, stone staircases winding uphill. My husband has quietly guided us here, and this is another detour that was not part of our itinerary. Luckily the weather was nice and cool, and the route weaves through the village, passing by quaint, abandoned homes and terraced stone walls, with increasingly panoramic views of the surrounding Lucanian Dolomites. The first staircase is rugged but manageable, and as you ascend, you'll notice the vegetation becomes more sparse, giving way to rocky terrain. Suddenly, the wide stone staircase was replaced with a narrower metal set of steps, which were slippery and which appeared to be leading directly into the mountain itself. If I am not wrong, these are the ruins of Castrum Medianum. So, along the way, look for signs that guide you toward the ruins of Castrum Medianum, if you also want to reach this area. After this initial climb, you'll reach a more open area where you can pause and admire the sheer rock formations framing the valley below. Finally it seemed that we have reached the top, and there is a viewpoint nearby. And from there, the views of Castelmezzano are absolutely breathtaking. And there it is, the Norman stairway, a series of 54 stone steps carved directly into the rocky spires of the Lucanian Dolomites. These steps lead to the remains of an ancient Norman castle, perched high above the town. Alright, we have seen it all, and now it was time to make our way back down, towards the village. Or so I thought. But my husband had other ideas, once again, and instead of climbing down the stone staircase, he made a left turn, and this brought us to yet another area, to this area we are currently at. Here again, their views were nothing short of spectacular, and the rugged mountains of the Lucanian Dolomites, known for their unique, sharp peaks and dramatic rock formations, create a surreal and almost otherworldly backdrop. And the cliffs, carved over millennia by geological forces, reveal layers of Earth's history with their distinctive folds and creases. The scene is marked by steep drops and jagged edges, where nature seems to have sculpted a stone masterpiece. As the last rays of light, from the sunset, move across the day, the Dolomites' colors shift from soft golden hues to deep shades of orange and red, adding to their mystique. It was finally time to make our way back to the village. The sun was setting and the temperature has started to drop quickly, and that is why you see me wearing my jacket now. The descent feels reflective, quiet, with the crunch of stone steps. And as we retrace our path through the winding staircases and narrow pathways, the energy of the village greets us once again. Our journey through Castelmezzano has been nothing short of magical. From its awe-inspiring views of the Lucanian Dolomites to its medieval pathways steeped in history, this village leaves a lasting impression. And as we bid farewell to this enchanting mountain village, we leave with a newfound appreciation for Italy's lesser-known gems.